Have you ever wondered what truly happens at the moment of death, the instant when life slips away, when the veil between the earthly and the eternal thins? Who or what awaits on the other side? Some say it's darkness, others claim light. But what if I told you there are thousands of accounts of people who have returned, not with stories of bliss, but with visions so terrifying they describe a place we fear to name: hell. Imagine a realm where time loses meaning, where every unrepented sin is magnified into eternal torment. What if these near-death experiences are not just hallucinations, but windows into the ultimate reality of divine justice? In countless documented cases, survivors describe being pulled from life with a force that is at once terrifying and irresistible. They recount floating above their bodies, but soon their consciousness is drawn down into realms of horror. Darkness thicker than night, heat beyond fire, screams echoing in silence. Some describe rivers of molten anguish and endless caverns filled with shadows that seem almost alive. These are not dreams. They are memories etched into the psyche with such intensity that the survivors are forever changed. One case in particular haunts scholars and theologians alike. A man who had suffered a massive heart attack reported being thrust into a pit of darkness, feeling an oppressive weight. In that void, he saw figures distorted and screaming, yet aware of their torment and the choices that led them there. He begged, he pleaded, but there was no one to answer, no escape, no mercy. And then a light appeared, distant yet piercing, guiding him back to the world of the living. When he awoke, he spoke only of the reality of judgment and the truth that hell exists as a warning. What is it about these experiences that align so closely with biblical descriptions? In Revelation, we read of a lake of fire, the final resting place where the consequences of sin are eternal. Could it be that these near-death experiences are glimpses of that very realm? Science often dismisses these accounts as a brain deprived of oxygen, releasing endorphins in extreme stress. Yet many of these experiences are reported by individuals whose brains were clinically dead, whose neural activity was absent. How can the mind conjure such consistent imagery of judgment if it is merely chemical reactions? Some of the most haunting testimonies describe not just physical torment, but a deep awareness of guilt. Survivors report being confronted with their sins as if a mirror were held up to their soul, each misdeed illuminated. In these moments, the self is stripped bare. There is no pretense, no denial. Some speak of meeting beings, entities of light or judgment that communicate without words. One woman described a presence she instinctively recognized as God, radiating judgment, yet offering a faint possibility of mercy. The imagery is horrifyingly detailed. Some describe landscapes of fire and brimstone, yet others recount subtler, more psychological torments. Isolation, a profound sense of abandonment, an endless echo of regret. One man reported an entire city of souls, each living in their own private hell, their choices creating unique prisons of torment. This aligns uncannily with the biblical notion of eternal separation from God. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect is the consistency across cultures and religions. While details differ, there is a recurring theme: judgment, accountability, and a place of torment for those who have transgressed. Is this evidence that the human soul carries an intrinsic understanding of divine justice? Or could these be glimpses into a reality where moral consequences are absolute, not metaphorical? Yet not all near-death experiences lead to visions of terror. Some report light, peace, and reunion with loved ones. This duality reinforces the notion of free will and divine justice. Our eternal fate is tied to our choices. The same threshold that reveals horror to some opens bliss to others. How do theologians interpret these experiences? Some argue that they serve as warnings, not just to the individual, but to humanity. They are vivid, visceral reminders that life is fleeting and that moral choices carry eternal weight. Others suggest these experiences are meant to be humbling, to reveal the depth of divine justice and the urgent need for repentance. Consider the psychological implications. Survivors often describe long-term transformations, changes in priorities, renewed faith, and a heightened sense of purpose. In this sense, near-death experiences are not just insights into the afterlife, they are instruments of moral awakening. But what about skeptics? Neuroscientists explain these visions as brain activity during trauma. Yet, the complexity and consistency of reports challenge simple explanations. Individuals with no prior religious education often describe images that eerily mirror biblical descriptions. How could this be coincidence? How could neurological phenomena produce narratives so aligned with millennia-old prophecies? Then there is the chilling question of authenticity. Some experiences defy explanation entirely. People report observing events in distant locations with perfect accuracy while clinically dead. The implications are profound. Consciousness may persist beyond physical death, and the horrors described are not limited to fire or pain alone. Many survivors recount encounters with demonic figures that exude malice and torment. These beings often seem aware of the person's sins and exploit their guilt, fear, and regret. It is as if moral failure itself gives rise to torment, a concept mirrored in Revelation. Some near-death experiences report a crossroads, a moment of choice, to remain in torment or return to life. This moment often carries a message: life is precious and redemption is possible. It is both terrifying and hopeful, a call to moral vigilance, an invitation to awaken before it is too late. Consider also the symbolic elements described: fire, darkness, rivers of anguish. These are metaphors for moral and spiritual realities. The visions compel the mind to confront ethical truth, to weigh actions not in earthly terms but in eternal consequence. Yet even in the most harrowing accounts, there is a structure, a logic. Judgment is not arbitrary. Hell is not chaos, but a realm of consequences, tailored to the soul's failings and the moral patterns it cultivated in life. And what of those who escape without such visions? Some emerge with no memory, others with impressions of peace. Could this indicate the mercy of God or the personal readiness of the soul? The Bible suggests that near-death experiences are glimpses filtered through mortal understanding. They are both terrifying and instructive, a shadow of ultimate reality. As we examine these stories, a pattern emerges, a consistent warning across time, cultures, and experiences. Moral choices matter. Sin carries eternal consequences, and the reality of hell is both real and inescapable. These accounts demand attention, reflection, and preparation. So what should we take from these accounts? First, that life is finite and the stakes are infinite. Second, that moral and spiritual integrity is paramount, and every decision has eternal significance. And finally, that hell is not an abstract idea, but a reality experienced by consciousness itself. Every survivor, every testimony leaves us with a haunting yet vital question: are we living as if eternity matters? The vivid horrors described in these experiences are not meant to frighten for the sake of fear. They are warnings, guideposts, and glimpses into a reality most dare not imagine. They are echoes of the prophetic visions of Daniel, Ezekiel, and John, reminding us that accountability is eternal. Near-death experiences offer a paradoxical revelation: terror and hope intertwined. They reveal the depths of suffering possible, yet also the possibility of return, redemption, and moral awakening. They are a bridge between the living and the eternal, a warning that the spiritual consequences of our lives extend far beyond the physical world. So, what happens when we die? The question is no longer abstract. The answers emerge from the experiences of those who have crossed the threshold and returned. They speak of judgment, torment, and eternal separation, but also of mercy, guidance, and the power of choice. The evidence is unsettling, profound, and impossible to ignore. The next time you consider your actions, your intentions, your moral choices, remember these accounts. Remember the terror that awaits unrepented sin. Remember the glimpses of hell seen by those who return to tell the tale. And remember that while the threshold is terrifying, the living have the power to prepare, to choose, and to align with eternal truth. If these revelations have stirred something in you, share your thoughts, discuss these mysteries, and subscribe. For in understanding the unknown, we prepare for the inevitable. Because the veil between life and eternity is thinner than we think, and every choice we make echoes beyond the grave. Near-death experiences are not just stories. They are warnings, revelations, and glimpses into the ultimate truth of divine justice.